We begin in Tuscany with Aqua Panna. The water rises on the historic Villa Panna estate north of Florence. After what the brand describes as a journey of roughly 14 years through the limestone and sandstone of the Apennines. That slow underground route gives it a moderate rounded mineral profile rather than a sharp or salty one. Aqua Panna has been connected with the estate since the Renaissance. And today its curved bottle and orange label make it one of the easiest Italian still waters to recognize in restaurants. Aquafina. From an old Tuscan estate, the story jumps to a completely different idea of bottled water. Aquafina is PepsiCo's purified water, so it is not built around one famous spring. The source water is treated through a multi-stage system that includes reverse osmosis and other filtration steps designed to remove most dissolved solids. The result is intentionally neutral and repeatable. That makes Aquafina useful as a contrast to Aqua Panna. One keeps the mineral signature of a place, while the other tries to remove as much source character as possible. Arrowhead. Staying in the United States, Arrowhead brings the spring story back. The name comes from the huge arrowhead-shaped landmark on the San Bernardino Mountains, and the brand traces its commercial history to the late 19th century. Modern Arrowhead Mountain spring water is drawn from a group of selected springs across the western United States, rather than one single mountain outlet. That is important because the brand's identity is regional, not tied to one identical mineral analysis. Its long-running mountain imagery and green label were built to make that western origin immediately visible. Arwa. The route then crosses to the United Arab Emirates for Arwa. Coca-Cola introduced the brand in the region in 1990, and the standard product is purified drinking water rather than natural mineral water. Arwa is marketed around a neutral pH of about 7, with treatment doing the main work instead of an underground mineral source. In a hot market where bottled water is an everyday necessity, the brand focuses on consistency, clean taste, and broad availability. Its simple blue and white presentation reflects that practical role, rather than trying to look like a rare luxury spring. Aqua. From the Gulf, we move to Indonesia, and one of the country's most historically important water names. Aqua was launched in 1973 by Tirto Utomo and helped establish the modern bottled water market in Indonesia. It later became closely associated with Danone, but its identity still centers on Indonesian mountain sources and local bottling. Unlike Aquafina or Arwa, Aqua is sold through a source-based story, water protected in mountain catchments, collected near the source, and distributed on a national scale. The familiar blue label has become almost shorthand for packaged water in Indonesia. Aqua Carpatica. The next bottle takes us from tropical Indonesia to Romania's Carpathian Mountains. Aqua Carpatica is natural mineral water, drawn from protected underground sources in a region known for volcanic geology. The still version is especially known for extremely low sodium and nitrate figures, which the company places directly at the center of its branding. Its black and white label and angular bottle give it a much more premium visual identity than most everyday waters. Here the product story is not purification technology. It is the unusual chemistry already present at the source. Aava. From the Carpathians, the path turns to India's Aravalli range. Aava is naturally alkaline mineral water, and the brand emphasizes that its pH comes from contact with rock, rather than from ionization after purification. Calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate are part of the water's natural profile. The Aravallis are among the world's oldest mountain systems, so the brand leans heavily into geological age and long underground filtration. That makes Aava a useful counterpoint to engineered alkaline waters later in the list. This one claims alkalinity as a property of the aquifer itself. Antipodes. We then travel to New Zealand for Antipodes, a water created with restaurants and food pairing in mind. It comes from a deep artesian aquifer near Wakatan in the Bay of Plenty beneath layers of silica. Rich volcanic rock. The company describes the water as between roughly 50 and 300 years old when it reaches the bore. Antipodes is intentionally low in mineral weight and very soft on the palate, so it does not compete strongly with food or wine. The minimalist black and white glass bottle is almost as central to the brand as the source. Ballygowan. Leaving New Zealand, we arrive in County Limerick for Ballygowan. The water is bottled at Newcastle West and moves through ancient Carboniferous limestone before reaching the source. Ballygowan says that underground journey can take hundreds of years, which helps explain why the source is treated as the heart of the brand, rather than just a supply point. It is one of Ireland's most familiar natural mineral waters, and the name is strongly associated with Irish sport and everyday retail. The taste is relatively gentle, but the limestone gives it more structure than purified water. Belu, the British water that follows, has a very different reason for existing. Belu is a social enterprise brand that directs its net profits to WaterAid, turning each bottle or filtration contract into funding for clean water and sanitation projects. Its still mineral water is sourced in Britain, including from the Welsh borders, while the company has also pushed recycled plastic, glass reuse, and hospitality filtration system. So Belu is not mainly selling a legendary spring story. Its strongest identity is the business model, a bottled water company designed to move money toward water access elsewhere. Bisleri. From Britain, the sequence moves to India again, this time to Bisleri. The name began with an Italian mineral water business, but the Indian operation was acquired by Ramesh Chauhan's Parle Group in 1969 and grew into one of the country's most recognizable packaged water brands. Bisleri describes a 10-step purification process, followed by mineralization and hygienic bottling. The green label and cap are now deeply familiar across India. Unlike Aava, Bisleri is not asking the drinker to focus on one ancient aquifer. It is built around industrial purification, sealed packaging, and nationwide trust. Buxton. The next stop is England's Peak District. Buxton natural mineral water rises at St. Anne's Spring in the historic spa town of Buxton after traveling through limestone deep below the ground. The brand says the journey can take around 5,000 years, and the water reaches the surface naturally warm. Buxton's identity therefore comes directly from the spa history of the town, not from a modern invented name. Its mineral balance is noticeable without being as intense as Contrex later in the sequence, giving the water a clean but clearly source-driven character. Ciel. From an English spa, we cross to Mexico for Ciel. Coca-Cola introduced the brand in the 1990 seconds, and the main still product is purified water made for mass everyday use. Ciel became especially visible through its large returnable containers and its blue curved branding, not through claims about one famous spring. Treatment and quality control create the finished profile. That places Ciel in the same broad family as Dasani and Aquafina, but its scale and cultural presence are specifically Mexican, where the brand is common in homes, shops, restaurants, and delivery systems. Contrex. France brings the mineral intensity back with Contrex. The water comes from Contrexville in the Vosges, and contains unusually high levels of calcium, magnesium, and sulfate. That chemistry gives it a firmer, heavier taste than low mineral waters, such as Antipodes or Loretana. Contrex has long marketed the mineral composition itself, so the numbers on the label matter more here than vague words like pure or fresh. The tall bottle and pink accents also make it easy to distinguish from many other French waters. This is a water whose geology is impossible to hide in the flavor. Cool Ridge. The journey then heads to Australia for Cool Ridge, a mainstream spring water brand first introduced in the early 1980 seconds. It is built for everyday convenience rather than fine dining, with sports caps, multi-packs, and bottles shaped for transport. In recent years, the brand has emphasized bottles made from recycled PET for its still and sparkling ranges, excluding components such as caps and labels. The water story is straightforward: Australian spring water. But the more distinctive modern story is packaging at large retail scale. Cool Ridge sits at the opposite end of the market from sculptural glass brands like Tynant. Crystal Geyser. Crossing back to the United States, Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water makes a point of bottling close to its springs. The company operates at several source locations across the country, and says the water is bottled at or very near the place where it emerges. That is different from brands that tanker water long distances before packaging it. The label's mountain scene is not just decorative. The entire brand is built around direct source bottling, because each location has its own geology. Crystal Geyser is best understood as a network of American spring waters, under one national name. Dasani. The next bottle is another Coca-Cola product, but Dasani is deliberately not a spring water. Introduced in the United States in 1999, It generally begins with local public water, which is purified through processes including reverse osmosis. A small blend of minerals is then added back for taste. That means the clean profile is designed after purification rather than inherited from a mountain aquifer. Dasani's blue label, ridged bottle, and huge distribution network made it one of the defining examples of modern purified bottled water, even though the starting source is far less romantic than the branding. Deep RiverRock. From engineered consistency, we return to a geological source in Northern Ireland. Deep RiverRock was launched in 1994 and is drawn from beneath a glacial hill in County Antrim. The source, naturally, contains minerals, including calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Its name was created to make that underground, rock-filtered origin feel immediate, and the dark blue packaging reinforces the idea. Deep RiverRock is especially familiar in Ireland through shops, hospitality, and event sponsorships, so it feels like a national everyday brand even though the source story is highly local. Deer Park. The American Spring sequence continues with Deer Park, whose history goes back to 1873 and a resort in Maryland's Appalachian region. The modern product no longer comes from only that original site. It is sourced from a group of selected springs across the mid-Atlantic. That network gives Deer Park a regional identity, similar to Arrowhead in the West and Ozarka in Texas. The Green Mountain label signals natural spring water, but the more accurate story is several protected sources supplying one established brand. Its longevity is one of the clearest differences between Deer Park and newer, premium waters. Deja Blue. Staying in the United States, Deja Blue changes the category again. It is a purified water brand introduced in Texas in 1997 and now associated with Keurig Dr. Pepper. For many years, the product was immediately recognizable because the water itself sat inside a translucent blue bottle. Later redesigns moved toward clear plastic while keeping the blue identity. There is no famous mountain or spa behind it. The interest is in the brand's regional growth, simple purified profile, and very distinctive packaging history. It is an everyday convenience store water rather than a source-led luxury product. Ethos Water. The next name, Ethos, is less about the taste of one source and more about the purpose attached to the sale. Starbucks acquired Ethos Water in 2005 and has used the brand to support grants for water, sanitation, and hygiene projects. The bottle is usually sold in Starbucks locations, so its distribution is tied to the coffee chain rather than a normal supermarket-only strategy. Ethos has used spring water in its product, but the defining message on the label is the contribution connected with each purchase. In this sequence, it belongs beside Belu as a mission-led water brand. Evian. From a social mission bottle, we move to one of the world's most famous source stories. Evian comes from the French Alps near Evian-les-Bains, on the southern side of Lake Geneva. Rain and snow filter through glacial sand and rock for about 15 years before reaching the protected source. During that journey, the water picks up calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate, producing the soft, rounded character associated with the brand. Evian's pink label and mountain silhouette are globally recognized, but the essential fact is still the long natural filtration route and bottling at the source. FIJI Water. The next leap is almost halfway around the world to Viti Levu, Fiji. FIJI Water begins as tropical rainfall, passes through layers of volcanic rock, and collects in a confined artesian aquifer. Because the aquifer is protected from the surface, the company makes that isolation a major part of its story. The water is known for silica and a smooth mouthfeel, while the square bottle, tropical, flower, and image printed behind the water turned the package into a global design icon. Few water brands have made the bottle itself as important as the source. Ganten, natural mineral water. From a Fijian aquifer, the sequence moves to China's Ganten, also known through the Baisuashan or Centurion Mountain name. The better-known Ganten product is natural mineral water, not ordinary, purified drinking water. The company says it draws from deep rock fissures, hundreds of meters below ground, and highlights naturally occurring silicate, calcium, potassium, and magnesium. Its sharply Faceted bottle looks more like cut crystal than a standard round bottle, which helped the brand stand out in a crowded Chinese market. The design and deep rock source are both central to its premium positioning. Harrogate Spring Water. The journey returns to Britain with Harrogate Spring Water. Harrogate became a spa destination after mineral springs were identified there in the 17th century, and bottled water from the town was being sold by the 18th century. The modern brand draws from an aquifer beneath the Harrogate area and uses the town's spa heritage as its foundation. Its diamond-patterned bottle references the local landscape while giving the plastic extra structure. Harrogate is therefore not merely another English spring water. It is a modern continuation of a place that built much of its reputation around water. Highland Spring. Moving north into Scotland, Highland Spring comes from the Ochil Hills in Perthshire. The company controls a large protected catchment of roughly 2,500 acres and promotes the land as organically managed. Rain filters through layers of basaltic rock before the water is bottled at source. That control over the surrounding land is a major part of the brand's credibility because it reduces activity around the aquifer. The taste is light and clean, but the specific story is the protected Scottish estate, not simply the word Highland printed beside a mountain picture. Himalayan. From Scotland's hills, the route climbs to the foothills of the Himalayas. Himalayan natural mineral water, part of Tata Consumer Products, is sourced in the Shivalik Range. The brand describes glacial melt and rainfall traveling through layers of Himalayan rock for around 20 years before reaching the aquifer. That process naturally adds minerals and gives the water its pale pink visual identity. The bottle often uses mountain contours and a premium silhouette, separating it from India's everyday packaged waters such as Bisleri and Kinley. Here, the source is the entire reason for the product. Ice Mountain. The American Midwest appears next through Ice Mountain natural spring water. The brand was introduced in the 1982 and is supplied by selected springs in the Midwest rather than one single famous mountain. That makes it a regional counterpart to Poland Spring in the Northeast, Deer Park in the Mid-Atlantic, and Ozarka in Texas. Ice Mountain's blue and green landscape label is designed to communicate cool northern terrain, while the actual product depends on the approved spring named on the bottle. Its importance comes from regional distribution and scale, not a luxury origin story. Icelandic Glacial. From the Midwest, we head to the Alfus Spring in Iceland. Icelandic Glacial comes from a large underground source naturally filtered through volcanic lava rock. The water has a very low total dissolved solids level, around 60 parts per minute Ilian, and is naturally alkaline without ionization. The sculpted bottle is shaped to suggest ice and volcanic geology, turning the Icelandic landscape into the package itself. Unlike brands that add electrolytes or adjust pH after purification, Icelandic Glacial presents its low mineral alkaline profile as something already created by the spring. Isklar. Norway follows with Isklar, drawn from the Isklar source in Hardanger, near the Fuglafjalla Glacier. The company describes it as artesian spring water connected with a landscape shaped by a glacier, thousands of years old. Snow and glacial conditions replenish the area, while the water reaches the source after natural movement through rock. The pale blue bottle and ice imagery make the origin obvious without much explanation. Isklar is not literally chopped from glacier ice like Svalbard. Later in the script, it is spring water from a glacier-dominated environment, which is an important distinction. Jana. From Norway, the sequence turns south to Croatia. Jana is drawn from a deep source near Sveta Jana, with the water traveling through carbonate rock before it is collected hundreds of meters below ground. The brand emphasizes a naturally balanced relationship between calcium and magnesium, rather than a very high mineral load. Jana's name comes directly from the source area, and the red, flower-like symbol gives the bottle a clear Croatian identity. It is a source-led mineral water, but its profile is much softer than heavy French waters such as Contrex. Kirkland Signature. The next entry is not a traditional water company at all. Kirkland Signature is Costco's private label, and its purified water is designed for bulk cases, predictable taste, and low unit cost. The standard product is purified, commonly by reverse osmosis, and includes minerals added for taste. Its identity comes from the retailer and warehouse club model, rather than one aquifer, founder, or spa town. That makes Kirkland a useful reminder that some of the world's most widely consumed bottled waters are logistics products. First, large volume contracts, standardized bottles, and pallets built for family or office use. Kinley. From Costco's private label, the list moves to Coca-Cola's Indian packaged water brand, Kinley. Launched in India around 2000, Kinley was built to compete in a market where trust in the seal and treatment process matters enormously. The water goes through purification and quality control stages before bottling, so the emphasis is on safe, consistent packaged drinking water rather than mineral character. Its blue label and straightforward bottle are intentionally practical. Alongside Bisleri and Aqua, Kinley shows how bottled water can become infrastructure for daily life, not just a premium beverage. Levi. Staying in Asia, Levi brings us to Vietnam. The company began in the early 1990s and developed around Vietnamese underground mineral sources, including its long-established operation in Long An. The water is bottled as natural mineral water, so its dissolved minerals come from the source rather than being added after reverse osmosis. Levi became common in homes, offices, hotels, and restaurants, with both small bottles and large returnable containers. Its red and blue mountain label is familiar nationwide. Among Vietnamese waters, it is one of the clearest examples of a local mineral source scaled into a mass-market brand. Le Mineral. Indonesia returns with Le Mineral, launched by Mayora Group's beverage business in 2015. The brand says its water comes from protected mountain sources and retains naturally occurring minerals. Its bottle is unusually rounded and slightly firm, with a red and blue label and a distinctive sealed cap ring that the company has used as a trust signal. Le Mineral grew quickly by presenting itself as more mineral, rich and flavorful than completely neutral purified water. In the Indonesian market, that puts it in direct conversation with the older Aqua brand, while giving it a younger, more aggressively designed identity. Life. Trichueti. From Indonesian mineral water, the sequence shifts to an American design, led purified brand. PepsiCo launched Life TR in 2017 with purified water, electrolytes added for taste, and rotating labels created by artists. The art program is not a minor decoration. Each series turns the bottle into a small exhibition and gives emerging creators mass retail visibility. The water itself is kept deliberately clean and neutral, so the brand can focus on design, culture, and premium positioning. Life TTR is therefore almost the inverse of Evian. The source is quiet, while the package and creative collaborations do the storytelling. Mai Dubai. The route returns to the United Arab Emirates for Mai Dubai. The company was established in 2012 by Dubai Electricity and Water Authority, and commercial production began soon afterward at a purpose-built plant. Its red logo and cap were chosen to stand apart in a category dominated by blue packaging. Mai Dubai is a locally produced drinking water brand built around modern manufacturing, food safety standards, and the identity of Dubai itself. Even the name is deliberate. Mai means water in Arabic, and also creates the phrase Mai Dubai when spoken in English. Mount Franklin. From Dubai, we travel back to Australia for Mount Franklin. Despite the singular mountain name, the modern brand selects approved Australian spring sources that meet its quality and environmental requirements. It has become one of the country's most familiar water labels under the Coca-Cola system. Sold in everything from small still bottles to sparkling formats. The blue mountain outline and red script give it a classic Australian retail look. Mount Franklin is not a rare single estate water. Its strength is national recognition built from a controlled group of spring sources. Mountain Valley. The next mountain name has a much older and more specific source. Mountain Valley spring water has been bottled in Hot Springs, Arkansas, since 1871. The water comes from the Ouachita Mountains and is naturally mineralized as it moves through rock before reaching the spring. Its green glass bottle became a signature long before premium water packaging became fashionable, and the brand has served hotels, restaurants, and even the White House. The balanced mineral profile and 19th-century continuity make Mountain Valley one of the most historically distinctive American waters in the entire list. Naya. Crossing north into Canada, Naya comes from Mirabel, Quebec, at the foot of the Laurentian Mountains. The spring water is bottled directly at the source, and the company describes it as naturally sodium-free and not ozonated. Naya has been a recognizable Quebec brand for decades. Combining local identity with large-scale retail distribution, its clear bottle and blue-green landscape graphics are restrained compared with Fiji or Life WTA. The important point is the exact location. This is not a vague Canadian mountain water, but a spring drawn in Mirabel from the Laurentian foothills. Pure Life. The list then moves to one of the most international water names. Pure Life began as a Nestle-branded water in Pakistan in 1998 and expanded into markets across the world. The product is generally purified water with a small mineral blend added for taste, designed to be produced close to the market rather than shipped from one global spring. That local production model is why Pure Life can appear in so many countries, while keeping a recognizable label. Its story is scale, standardization, and global distribution, not terroir. It is closer to a worldwide water formula than a single-source mineral water. Nongfu Spring. China returns with Nongfu Spring, a company that built its identity around natural source water, rather than highly stripped purified water. The brand began selling packaged water in the 1990 seconds, and draws from several protected natural source areas across China. Its red cap and white label are instantly recognizable, while advertising has repeatedly emphasized that the water comes from nature and is only minimally processed. Nongfu Spring's rise is important because it helped turn source location into a major competitive idea in the Chinese market, where purified water had previously dominated much of the category. Ozarka. From China, the script returns to the American regional spring system with Ozarka. The brand dates to 1905 and is strongly associated with Texas. Today's Ozarka natural spring water is collected from selected Texas springs and put through a multi-step quality process before bottling. The name comes from the Ozark region, but the product's modern identity is unmistakably Texan, reinforced by the red star and landscape imagery. Like Deer Park, Arrowhead, and Ice Mountain, Ozarka works as a regional brand under a broader national bottled water network. Pente. The next American water goes in the opposite direction from spring branding. Penta is an ultra-purified water that uses a proprietary multi-stage process and targets an exceptionally low total dissolved solids level, often below 1 part per minute illion. Most of the source minerals are removed rather than celebrated. The brand name refers to a 5-point concept used in its early identity, and the simple white and blue packaging matches the laboratory, clean positioning. Penta is useful in this sequence because it shows purification taken further than mainstream brands such as Dasani or Aquafina. Poland Spring. From ultra-purified water, we return to one of America's oldest spring names. Poland Spring grew from the historic resort and spring in Poland, Maine, during the 19th century. Modern bottles are supplied by a group of approved springs across Maine, rather than only the original Poland spring source. The brand's green label, pine trees, and Maine outline make that regional identity unmistakable. Its history is tied to inns, spa culture, and glass bottling, but its present scale comes from combining multiple Maine springs into one familiar northeastern brand. Prince's Gate. The route crosses the Atlantic again to Pembrokeshire, Wales. Prince's Gate began as a family spring water business on a farm, and takes its name from the local area near Narberth. The water is drawn from a protected underground source, and bottled in Wales, giving the brand a genuinely local foundation beneath its broad supermarket distribution. Its blue label and crown-like emblem are simple, but the family farm origin separates it from giant multinational labels. Prince's Gate later became part of a larger beverage group, yet the Welsh source remains the center of the product story. Pump. From a Welsh farm, we move to the sports cap practicality of Pump in Australia and New Zealand. Pump is a Coca-Cola water brand designed around a tall, grip-friendly bottle and a pull-top cap that can be opened while walking, driving, or exercising. The standard product is plain still water, so the bottle function is more distinctive than a mineral profile. Its bold black lettering and oversized cap made it visually different from softer spring water designs. Pump demonstrates how packaging can define a water brand, even when the liquid itself is intentionally straightforward. Smart Water. The next bottle turns purification into a weather metaphor. Smart water is vapor, Distilled, water is evaporated and condensed, a process the brand compares with the natural water cycle. Electrolytes are then added back for taste. Introduced in the United States in the 1990 seconds, Smart Water became known for its tall, narrow bottle, clean typography, and premium urban positioning. There is no spring landscape on the label because the process is the story. Compared with Penta's extremely stripped profile, Smart Water deliberately rebuilds a light mineral taste after distillation. Sohat. The sequence then reaches Lebanon through Sohat natural mineral water. Sohat is associated with the high mountain source at Fallujah, more than 1,000 meters above sea level. The altitude, limestone terrain, and low sodium profile are central to the brand's presentation. Sohat has been one of Lebanon's best-known bottled waters for decades, and is recognizable by its Blue Mountain label. This is a source that belongs to the landscape of Mount Lebanon, not a purified formula that could be produced anywhere. That regional specificity gives the brand much of its value. Tanarine. Another Lebanese mountain water follows. Tanarine was founded in 1978 and takes its name from the high-altitude Tanarine region, around 1,500 meters above sea level. Snow and rainfall move through the area's limestone before reaching underground sources. The brand's blue and red label uses the mountain setting directly, and the product is widely sold throughout Lebanon. Placing Sohat and Tanarine together makes the difference interesting. Both are Lebanese and source, lead, but each is anchored to a separate mountain area and company history, rather than being interchangeable. National waters. Tau. From Lebanon, the root returns to Wales for Tau. The name means silent in Welsh, and the brand was created as a restrained companion to food and hospitality. Tau comes from a source near Bethania in the Cambrian Mountains, in the same broad region associated with Tynant but presented with a much quieter visual language. Its clear cylindrical bottle and minimal lettering avoid the dramatic cobalt blue used by its better-known relative. Tau's identity is therefore built on subtlety. Welsh source water package to disappear into a restaurant table rather than dominate it. Tynant. The next bottle makes exactly the opposite design choice. Tynant is Welsh natural mineral water from a source near Bethania, but it became internationally famous through its cobalt blue glass bottle. That bottle was launched at London's Savoy Hotel in 1989 and quickly turned the brand into a design object seen in restaurants, fashion shoots, and luxury hospitality. Later, PET bottles used a sculpted flowing shape designed by Ross Lovegrove. Tynant proves that bottled water can become collectible visual branding, even when the liquid comes from a quiet rural source. Valpre. From Wales, the journey moves to South Africa for Valpre. Coca-Cola's South African Spring water brand says the water spends up to about 15 years filtering naturally through rock before reaching the source near Heidelberg. The underground journey establishes the mineral balance before bottling. So this is not simply municipal water placed behind a mountain label. Valpre has also used lightweight and plant-based packaging initiatives in its modern identity. The green and blue bottle presents a clean South African spring story, while the specific long filtration time gives the script something more meaningful than simply calling the water pure. Verna, purified water. Ghana follows with an important correction. Verna is presented by its manufacturer, Twillium Industrial Company, as purified water, not natural mineral water. That means the product should not be described as retaining the untouched chemistry of a protected mineral spring. Verna's identity is instead tied to modern Ghanaian manufacturing, broad national distribution, and its highly visible blue and pink branding. The company has also used the brand in charitable and health-related campaigns. Correctly classifying it matters, because purified water and natural mineral water tell completely different production stories. Vittel. The route returns to France and the spa town of Vittel in the Vosges. Vittel natural mineral water forms underground as rain passes through different rock layers within a protected catchment known as the impluvium. Those rocks give the water a relatively substantial mineral profile, especially calcium, and more body than very low mineral waters. The town's thermal history and the brand's red label are inseparable from the product. Vittel is not merely French bottled water. It is a commercial extension of a spa destination whose economy and reputation were built around its springs. Volvic. From the Vosges, we move to central France and the volcanic landscape of Auvergne. Volvic begins as rain and snow that filter through layers of ancient volcanic rock before reaching the Clairvik source. That geology gives it a low to moderate mineral profile and a soft, clean taste. The dark volcanic cone printed on the bottle refers to the Chaîne des Pouilles, not an invented fantasy mountain. Volvic's strongest distinction is that the filter itself is volcanic stone, linking the flavor, the source, and the entire visual identity in one clear idea. Voss. Norway returns through Voss, but the source is not in the town of Voss. The still water is associated with an underground source in southern Norway, around the Ivland area. The brand was created as a premium export product and became famous through the tall cylindrical bottle designed by Neil Craft. That package resembles a piece of modern tableware, more than a normal water bottle, which helped Voss enter hotels, restaurants, and celebrity culture. The restrained mineral profile matters, but the real commercial breakthrough was turning Norwegian water into an instantly recognizable design. Object. Watson's Water. The next stop is Hong Kong, where Watson's Water has a history extending back more than a century. Its defining product is distilled water. The water is turned into vapor and condensed again, leaving most dissolved minerals behind. This creates an especially light, neutral profile that is very different from Vittel or Contrex. Watson's became deeply embedded in Hong Kong homes and offices through both individual bottles and large delivery containers. The green and white branding and long local history make it more than an anonymous distilled water. It is part of the territory's everyday beverage infrastructure. Whistler Water. From dense urban Hong Kong, the script moves to the coast mountains of British Columbia. Whistler Water is linked with a secluded glacial source in Western Canada, including water associated with the Place Glacier area. Snow and ice move through a remote mountain environment before collection, giving the brand a naturally low mineral profile. Its blue packaging leans heavily into Canadian glacier imagery, but the key point is that it comes from a specific coastal mountain system. It is spring or glacial source water, not melted iceberg water like Berg or Svalbard's high, later. Zephyr Hills. The climate changes completely with Zephyr Hills natural spring water from Florida. The brand dates to the 1960 seconds and draws from selected Florida springs, including sources associated with places such as Crystal Springs and Ginny Springs. Florida's limestone aquifers create a different mineral environment from the granite, volcanic, or glacial sources elsewhere in the list. The orange, green, and blue label is designed to look unmistakably Floridian. Zephyr Hills belongs to the same regional American family as Ozarka and Poland Spring, but its identity comes from the state's warm spring landscape. Żywiec Zdrój. The journey then moves to southern Poland. Żywiec Zdrój is closely associated with the Żywiec Beskids, a forested mountain region that appears throughout the brand's imagery. The company grew during the 1990 seconds and became one of Poland's most familiar bottled water names, later joining Danone's portfolio. Its still water is presented as a light, everyday spring water rather than a strongly mineral spa product. The Blue Mountain logo and Polish diacritics make the origin clear, while the brand's environmental campaigns have often focused on forests and the protection of local water resources. Waiakea. From Poland, we cross the Pacific to Hawaii for Waiakea Hawaiian volcanic water. Rain and snow melt on Mauna Loa, pass through porous volcanic rock before entering a deep aquifer near Hilo. Waiakea draws through a deep well at the volcano's eastern base and highlights naturally occurring silica, electrolytes, and an alkaline pH. The black bottle with bright blue and pink accents gives the brand a modern athletic look, but the real distinction is the enormous volcanic filter above the source. This is aquifer water shaped by Mauna Loa, not water taken from a surface stream. Essentia. The next alkaline water is created very differently. Essentia begins as purified water, then receives an electrolyte blend and is ionized to reach a stated pH of 9.5 or higher. The company built its identity around that three-stage process rather than a natural alkaline spring. Its black and red label and performance-oriented marketing helped make high pH water a mainstream American category. Placed after Waiakea, the contrast is clear. Both are alkaline, but one credits volcanic geology while the other uses purification, mineral addition, and ionization to engineer the final profile. Core hydration. Core hydration follows with a softer version of the engineered water idea. The water goes through a 7-stage reverse osmosis process. Then, electrolytes and minerals are blended back for taste. The brand targets a pH around 7.4, presenting it as balanced rather than aggressively alkaline. Its rounded bottle, wide mouth, and oversized blue cap are the most recognizable design features. Core entered the market as a lifestyle water, and was later acquired by Keurig Dr. Pepper. Unlike Essentia, it does not chase the highest pH number. It sells a controlled, near-neutral formula. Eternal water. From engineered pH, the list returns to naturally alkaline spring water. Eternal water draws from underground sources, where the water moves through layers of rock and sandstone, collecting minerals that raise the pH without ionization. The brand uses several protected American source areas, so its central promise is the natural geological process, rather than one laboratory treatment. The tall bottle and infinity symbol reinforce the name. Eternal belongs beside Aava as a naturally alkaline product, making it a useful contrast with Essentia and other waters whose alkalinity is created after purification. Just water. The next brand changes the discussion from chemistry to packaging. Just Water became recognizable through a mostly paper-based carton, with a plant-derived plastic cap and shoulder. Its original water story was tied to the watershed around Glens Falls, New York, where the company paid the community for access, while emphasizing responsible use. The carton was designed to reduce dependence on a conventional all-plastic bottle and to ship efficiently in a rectangular shape. Just is a water brand, but the product's real innovation is the container and the attempt to make sourcing economics part of the public story. Flow. From one carton to another. Flow comes from a naturally alkaline artesian spring in Bruce County, Ontario. The water rises from a deep limestone aquifer, with naturally occurring minerals and a pH a little above neutral. Flow packages it in a Tetra Pak style carton made largely from renewable paper material, giving the brand a soft pastel appearance unlike most clear plastic waters. The source and package work together. An old underground aquifer presented through a modern plant-based container. Flow later expanded into flavored products, but the original still water is the core of the brand. Path. The package changes again with Path. Path sells purified water in a rigid aluminum bottle designed to be refilled many times before recycling. The standard version goes through a multi-step purification process, while separate alkaline versions are also sold. The bottle looks more like a permanent canteen than disposable packaging, and that is intentional. The company prints refill messages directly on it. Unlike Just and Flow, which use paper-based cartons, Pennsylvania TH chooses metal and durability. The liquid is simple, but the business depends on persuading people not to treat the container as single-use. Zentuat. The next sustainability-led brand is Zendutar. It uses vapor-distilled water, adds minerals, and markets an alkaline pH around 9.5. The distinctive claim is the bottle material, certified recycled plastic collected from areas at risk of entering the ocean, often described as ocean-bound plastic. That does not mean old bottles are scooped directly from the sea and instantly reused. It refers to recovered plastic intercepted before likely marine leakage. Zentoker combines an engineered high pH product with a waste recovery story, placing equal weight on the water formula and the source of the packaging material. Saratoga. After several modern package experiments, Saratoga brings back 19th-century American spa culture. Saratoga spring water traces its commercial history to 1872. Saratoga Springs, New York, a town famous for mineral springs, racing, and grand hotels. The brand's cobalt, blue glass bottle is its signature, especially in restaurants and hospitality. Saratoga offers still and sparkling water, but the bottle color and long spa town association unite the range. It feels luxurious not because of a complicated treatment claim, but because the package and location carry more than a century of cultural memory. Summit, spring, water. From New York, the route continues into Maine for Summit Spring. Historical records describe the source near Harrison as far back as the late 18th century, making it one of the oldest documented commercial spring sites in the United States. The spring flows naturally by gravity, without the need to pump water from deep underground. That free-flowing character became part of its appeal, along with old stories of the water being sold as a tonic. Summit is a small regional source with an unusually long paper trail, not a newly invented premium name attached to ordinary, purified water. Theoni. The journey crosses to Greece for Theoni natural mineral water. It comes from the Gora Spring in the Agrippa mountain region near Karditsa, at high elevation and far from large industrial centers. Theoni has repeatedly appeared among the top waters at the Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting, including major awards in the non-carbonated category. Its clear bottle and blue mountain graphics are relatively conventional, so the source altitude and competition record carry much of the brand story. This is a Greek mountain mineral water, whose reputation has grown through tasting results rather than extravagant packaging. El Dorado. From Greece, we return to Colorado for El Dorado natural spring water. The source lies in El Dorado Springs Canyon near Boulder, where rain and snow from the mountain system move underground before emerging under natural pressure. The community itself is named after the spring, giving the brand a direct geographical foundation. El Dorado has also performed strongly in international water tastings, including top placements in recent years. Its product is not a broad multi-state network like Arrowhead. It is tied to one Colorado source area and the small settlement built around it. Smeraldina. The next source is on the Mediterranean island of Sardinia. Smeraldina is drawn from a deep artesian aquifer beneath granite mountains near Tempio Pausania. The water spends time moving through ancient granite, which gives it a stable mineral balance and naturally low sodium. Smeraldina has won international tasting awards, but its strongest story is the depth and geology of the Sardinian source. The green label and name reference the island's emerald coast, connecting the luxury image of Costa Smeralda with water that actually comes from the island's interior rock. Hawaiian Springs. From Sardinian granite, we move to the volcanic slopes of Mauna Loa again. Hawaiian Springs draws artesian water near Kedo, on Hawaii Island, where rainfall passes through thousands of feet of porous volcanic rock before reaching the aquifer. The brand emphasizes that the water is bottled at the source and naturally filtered by the mountain. Its blue bottle and island flower graphics create a softer, more traditional Hawaiian look than Waiakia's black performance styling. The two brands share volcanic geography, but present it to completely different audiences. Hope. The next entry is smaller and more regional. Hope Natural Spring Water from Halifax County, Virginia. Public corporate detail is limited, but the location and competition record are concrete. Hope earned high placements at the Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting, including a silver medal in the bottled non-carbonated category. That matters because the product has built recognition through blind tasting rather than global advertising. The script should therefore stay with what is known. A Virginia spring water from Halifax County, whose clean profile has repeatedly impressed judges. Not an invented centuries-old legend. Jano. Crossing into Canada, Jano comes from the source Bertrand in Village, Blanchard, New Brunswick. The water is naturally filtered underground and bottled without added flavor or a manufactured mineral blend. The source was identified in the late 1980 seconds, and the brand has since collected several placements at the Berkeley Springs tasting. Jano's packaging is modest compared with luxury waters, so the regional source and competition results carry the narrative. It is a clear example of a small Atlantic Canadian spring becoming internationally noticed through taste rather than marketing scale. Piney Plains. From New Brunswick, the route returns to Little Orleans, Maryland, for Piney Plains natural spring water. The brand made an unusually fast impression at Berkeley Springs. It earned a high tasting placement, and then won the People's Choice Packaging Award with a colorful reusable aluminum bottle. That package separates it from the endless rows of clear PET spring water. Piney Plains is still a local Maryland source, but the combination of strong blind tasting results and refillable metal packaging gives it a modern identity that is much more specific than simply calling it clean American. Spring water. Peninsula Springs. The next medal-winning regional water comes from Victoria, Australia. Peninsula Springs, based in the Doveton area, earned a bronze placement in the non-carbonated category at the 2024 Berkeley Springs tasting. The company works within Victoria's broader spring water landscape and presents the product as a local still water rather than an imported luxury object. Its recognition came beside established international names, which is the most useful fact for the script. Instead of inventing a dramatic glacier story, the honest distinction is a Victorian spring water that performed strongly in a major blind competition. Shenandoah Rain. From Australia, we return to Virginia for Shenandoah Rain. The brand is produced in Edinburgh in the Shenandoah Valley and reached second place in the 2025 Berkeley Springs non-carbonated water category. Its name links the product directly to the valley's rainfall and landscape. While the company also sells it through a regional food and distribution business, Shenandoah Rain does not need a broad explanation that could describe every rainwater brand. The specific story is a Virginia-made water that competed against mountain springs and mineral waters and still earned one of the highest scores of the event. Lesage. The route shifts west to Lesage Natural Water in West Virginia. The water is sourced and bottled in the community of Lesage. But the company is especially notable because it operates as a division of Green Acres Regional Center, an organization serving people with disabilities. That gives the bottling business a local employment and social role beyond selling water. Lesage has also earned repeated awards in purified water tasting categories. The combination is distinctive, regional West Virginia production, competitive taste results, and a business structure connected with community support. Babinda Springs. From Appalachia, the script moves to tropical far north Queensland. Babinda Springs is bottled in the town of Babinda, where the plant sits above a spring connected with an aquifer beneath the granite landscape. Local descriptions place the spring roughly 30 meters underground, heavy rainfall around Mount Bartle Frere, and the surrounding rainforest replenishes the system, giving the brand a genuinely wet tropics origin. Babinda Springs is not just Australian spring water, it comes from one of the country's rainiest regions, where granite mountains and rainforest define the source environment. Puritas. Spring water. The next correction takes us to South Africa, not Australia. Puritas spring water comes from the Drakensberg region of the Eastern Cape and is associated with a spring on the Brummer family's farm. The family says the land and source have been cared for across 7 generations, giving the product a long agricultural connection. The water is bottled close to the source rather than transported from a distant municipal system. Puritas should therefore be described as a family-linked South African mountain spring water, not confused with the historical American Puritas brand once marketed. Alongside Arrowhead, Mountain Springs. From the Drakensberg, the route reaches St. Kitts and Nevis. Mountain Springs is a locally produced Caribbean water brand, sold as purified and alkaline water. It has gained recognition through the Berkeley Springs tasting, including a top placement in the purified category. The island setting is important, but this is not a claim that every bottle flows untouched from a volcanic mountain. Spring treatment is part of the product. Its distinction comes from being a homegrown St. Kitts and Nevis brand that has competed successfully against much larger international purified waters. Socosani. The next source lies in Peru, beneath the influence of the Chachani volcano. Socosani traces its water to snowmelt and precipitation that move underground through volcanic rock before emerging in the Socosani Valley near Arequipa. The company dates to 1904, giving it more than a century of history in Peruvian beverages. Volcanic minerals create a noticeable profile, and the brand produces both still and sparkling forms. Socosani is one of the clearest South American examples in the list where a volcano, a valley, and an old bottling company all belong to the same story. Wasa. From the Andes, the journey returns to Europe for Wosa in Austria. The water comes from a marble spring in Carinthia's Levantal region, more than 1,000 meters above sea level. Contact with Marble and mountain rock shapes the mineral balance, while the brand emphasizes low sodium and naturally high oxygen content. WOS's clear, elegant packaging targets premium hospitality. But the source is the real point. A high alpine spring in a specific Austrian valley. That makes the water very different from products whose premium image is created mainly through design. Pure One. The next bottle comes from beneath Mount Taranaki, in New Zealand. Pure One describes rainfall moving through volcanic rock for tens of thousands of years before reaching an aquifer, roughly a kilometer underground. The resulting water has a much higher dissolved mineral level than many soft New Zealand waters, giving it a fuller taste. The company connects the age of the aquifer with the scent and volcanic history of Taranaki. Pure One is therefore not another vague claim of pristine island water. Its identity depends on an unusually deep, old, and mineral-rich volcanic source. Beloka. From New Zealand, we cross to Australia's snowy mountains for Beloka water. The source lies beneath a family property near Dalgety, where water moves through ancient geological strata before reaching a protected aquifer. Beloka emphasizes the old rock formations of the region and bottles both still and sparkling water close to the source. Its dark, refined labels and glass formats target restaurants, but the foundation is still a working rural property. The brand combines Australian alpine geography with family ownership in a way that feels more like an estate product than a mass market water. Cape Grim. The sequence now turns to rainwater at the remote northwestern tip of Tasmania. Cape Grim water was built around rain arriving across the Southern Ocean in the Roaring Forties, near a site used for baseline air monitoring because of its exceptionally clean atmosphere. The company began in the late 1992s and marketed water captured before it touched the ground. The brand later ceased normal trading and entered insolvency proceedings, so it should not be presented as an ordinary active supermarket label. Its significance is historical, one of the best-known attempts to turn Tasmanian rain into a luxury, bottled water. Cloud Juice. Still in Tasmania, Cloud Juice offers a living version of the premium rainwater idea. It is collected on King Island, a remote island in Bass Strait exposed to the roaring Forties and frequent rainfall. The company says it rains there around 180 days a year, and the water is bottled in small batches. The tall Bordeaux-style glass bottle makes it look more like wine than ordinary water. Unlike Cape Grim's now troubled business history, Cloud Juice remains centered on active production, and the idea that rain itself, before long contact with rock, can be a distinctive source. Tasmanian Rain. The Tasmanian rain section continues on the island's northwestern coast. Tasmanian rain is collected in a purpose-built catchment near the Cape Grim air monitoring region after weather systems have crossed Antarctica and thousands of kilometers of open ocean. The water is captured before it reaches the ground and contains only about 17 parts per minute illion of dissolved solids. That gives it an exceptionally soft profile without needing reverse osmosis to strip minerals away. Unlike Cloud Juice from King Island, this bottle ties its identity specifically to northwestern Tasmania and the atmospheric conditions measured around Cape Grim. Berg. From Tasmanian clouds, the script moves to floating ice off Newfoundland. Berg water is made from icebergs harvested in the North Atlantic near Canada's eastern coast. Those icebergs began as snowfall compacted into Greenland glaciers many thousands of years ago before breaking away and drifting south. When melted, the water is extremely low in minerals because the original snow had little contact with rock. Berg's luxury story depends on the difficulty and seasonality of collecting ice safely, then bottling a source that may exist above the ocean for only a short time before melting. Ice Age. The Canadian glacial theme continues in British Columbia with Ice Age glacial water. The company collects naturally released meltwater at the foot of a glacier, rather than cutting blocks from a drifting iceberg. Because the water begins as compacted snow and ice, it carries very little dissolved mineral material and has an unusually light profile. The brand was redesigned for the premium market with a faceted bottle and a separate higher pH sister product. Ice Age therefore sits between Whistler's Mountain Source story and Berg's Harvested Iceberg story, Canadian glacial water. But gathered as meltwater on land. Lofoten, Arctic water. From Canada, we move north of the Arctic Circle to Norway's Lofoten Islands. Lofoten Arctic water is bottled from mountain water near Gravdal and reports a very low total dissolved solids level of about 30 parts per minute illion. Snow, rain, and the steep island mountains replenish the source. The company offers the water in glass and recyclable aluminum formats, rather than relying only on ordinary plastic. Lofoten's jagged peaks and remote fishing, island landscape give the brand a real geographical identity, not merely an abstract use of the word Arctic. Svalbard. The next Arctic water is far more unusual. Svalbard sea is made from icebergs freshly calved into the fjords around the Svalbard archipelago. Roughly 1,000 kilometers from the North Pole. Crews collect suitable pieces during the brief period before they melt into seawater. Then the ice is melted and bottled in Longyearbyen. The result is extremely low in minerals and produced in very limited quantities. Svalbard is less an everyday drink than a provenance-driven luxury object, where the expedition, scarcity, and individually gathered iceberg matter as much as the water itself. Waiho. From Svalbard, the journey drops to New Zealand's North Island and the Blue Spring at Waiho. Water from the Mamaku Plateau can spend up to around a century filtering through volcanic rock before emerging with remarkable clarity near Putaruru. The Blue Spring feeds the Waiho River and is associated with a large share of New Zealand's bottled water supply. Waiho branded water draws its identity from that exact spring system. Unlike an iceberg water, it is constantly renewed underground, and the volcanic filtration creates a stable spring, rather than a one-time piece of ancient ice. Arrowhead. The New Zealand sequence continues with Arrowhead natural artesian water from the Otakiri Aquifer in the Bay of Plenty. Rain moves underground through porous volcanic rock before reaching the protected source, creating a slightly alkaline water with high silica and very low nitrate levels. Its calcium and magnesium content is also low, so the texture stays soft rather than chalky. Arrowhead was developed with a strong export focus and uses restrained black and white packaging aimed at premium dining. The brand name combines ideas of health and life, matching a source story built around a deep New Zealand aquifer. Solana de Cabras. From New Zealand, we travel to Spain's Serranía de Cuenca. Solana de Cabras comes from a natural mineral spring in a remote valley, long associated with bathing and spa use. Rain filters through the surrounding mountain rock before reaching the source, creating a balanced mineral composition. The cobalt blue bottle is one of Spain's most recognizable packages and protects the water from light while giving the brand a premium identity. Solana de Cabras combines a real historic spring with modern design, rather than relying on design alone to create the impression of rarity. Loretana. The route then returns to Italy for Loretana. The source lies high in the Biella Alps of Piedmont, where water moves through ancient granite before emerging with an exceptionally low mineral content. Loretana reports total dissolved solids of roughly 14 milligrams per liter, placing it among the lightest natural mineral waters commonly sold. That makes the texture noticeably delicate, compared with Contrex, Vittel, or Pure One. The brand often appears in clear glass bottles, designed by Pininfarina, linking a very soft alpine water with a distinctly Italian design pedigree. Miosen. We finish in Vietnam with Miosen natural mineral water. The source is in Chau Thon District, Tien Giang Province, where the company says water is drawn from Miocene geological layers at a depth close to 500 meters. The name Miosen comes directly from that ancient rock formation, so it is not a random premium word. The plant is located at the source and operates under food safety management standards. After traveling through estates, glaciers, volcanoes, rain clouds, purification plants, and deep aquifers, the final bottle brings the story back to the underground geology of Vietnam. 1907. Water. So this is 1907 water artesian water. But the interesting part starts long before the bottle. It comes from a deep artesian aquifer in New Zealand. The brand takes its name from 1907 and presents itself as a premium New Zealand artesian water. Rainfall moves slowly underground through layers of rock before natural pressure brings the water to the protected source. The chemistry is already established by the time the water reaches the source. Rock and soil set the mineral balance without added treatment. It is marketed as naturally alkaline, with a clean mineral profile rather than an aggressively salty one. The water has a smooth, soft taste with a slightly rounded finish. The final layer is how the brand shows all of this to customers. Today, the brand is positioned for everyday, premium hydration and export markets. Kiwai. Kiwai is bottled water, and the source gives it most of its personality. Its low-key mineral character makes it gentle and easy to drink rather than sharp or metallic. Its geography is unusually specific. It comes from the Blue Spring area of New Zealand, fed by an ancient aquifer beneath protected forest. The result is naturally clear water with a light mineral presence and no carbonation. In the version shown, long before bottling, the surrounding terrain is already shaping the water. Water spends a long period underground before emerging through the spring system, protected from most surface activity. Continued contact with the local geology develops its mineral character. Kiwai became known internationally as a distinctly New Zealand still water brand. The commercial identity follows the source. The tall, clear bottle and bold Kiwai label were designed to make the origin immediately recognizable. Imsdal. This bottle is Imsdal spring water. It looks straightforward, though the water takes a much longer route to get here. The spring had been known locally for generations, while the Imsdal brand itself was launched nationally in 1994. Imsdal became one of the brands that helped make plain bottled water a normal everyday purchase in Norway. Because it comes from a protected mountain valley, the still water is presented as clean, fresh, and naturally balanced. Most of the important work happens underground, rather than at the filling line. The source is the underground spring in Imsdalen at the foot of Norway's Rondane Mountains. The water is naturally filtered through large masses of sand before being bottled directly at the source near Koppang. Below ground, it takes on minerals already present in the surrounding rock. It has a crisp Scandinavian profile with a very neutral finish. Isbre. Here we have Isbre spring water, shaped more by geology than by anything added afterward. The still bottle keeps the presentation simple, using glacier imagery and blue labeling to underline the Norwegian origin. That origin helps explain the final character. It comes from a spring below the Hardangerfjorden Glacier near Ulvik in western Norway. Isbre was developed around the idea of presenting Norwegian glacier region water to an international premium market. The defining stage happens before the filling line. Snow and ice from the Hardanger plateau feed the surrounding landscape, and the water reaches the source after moving through the local geology. The local rock creates the natural mineral profile. The brand emphasizes unusually low levels of salts, minerals, and metals. That becomes clearer once you taste it. The result is a very light, almost weightless taste with little aftertaste. Ethos Water. Before talking about the flavor, this is Ethos Water natural mineral water. The water rises from a protected underground source and is bottled close to where it emerges. It starts with a place, Osakilden, in the small village of Os in Setesdal, southern Norway. The commercial brand developed around the source later. For a long time, the source mainly served nearby families before Ethos Water was developed as a bottled natural mineral water. The still version is clean and restrained, with a soft finish. The way it is presented keeps the origin visible. Ethos uses minimalist packaging to place the focus on the source and the Scandinavian sense of simplicity. Its identity is based more on the purity and remoteness of the source than on heavy mineral intensity. Arva is sold as bottled water, but the category alone does not explain how it drinks. What you're really getting is water from Arrowhead, a mountain and fjord landscape in western Norway. As it travels, contact with local rock and soil creates the natural mineral makeup. Bottling and branding followed after the source was established. Arva was created as a premium Norwegian water for restaurants, hotels, and design-conscious consumers. Its still water is delicate, clean, and neutral enough to sit beside food without dominating it. The route from rainfall to bottle is not immediate. Precipitation moves through the local mountain geology before reaching the protected underground source. The brand publishes a naturally occurring mineral composition and presents the water without added carbonation. The understated bottle is part of the brand's fine dining identity. Veen. The name here is Veen. It is bottled water, with a character tied closely to its origin. The brand describes the still water as naturally alkaline and containing minerals such as calcium and magnesium. It is smooth and balanced, with a mild mineral presence instead of a hard edge. Begin with the source. The source is Finnish Lapland, where Veen draws its still water from a remote natural source. Veen was founded to turn Nordic source water into an international premium hospitality brand. Now trace the water's route. Water from snow and rain filters through the northern landscape. Before reaching the aquifer, contact with the landscape creates the mineral balance found in the bottle. Veen is commonly presented in elegant glass bottles for restaurants, retreats, and hotels.
Hilden.
This one is Hilden Natural Mineral Water, and it makes sense to begin with the way it feels in the mouth. Hilden grew from a private estate source into one of Britain's best-known premium mineral waters. Its broad-shouldered glass bottle and blue label became strongly associated with hotels and fine dining. The next piece is the origin. The source is the Hilden Estate in Hampshire, England. Rainwater passes through layers of chalk beneath the Hampshire countryside. Before reaching the underground aquifer, the result becomes clearer in the glass. The chalk filtration gives the water a balanced natural mineral composition and a neutral pH. The still version is soft, rounded, and deliberately unobtrusive at the table. Lanlier source. At the center of Lanlier source is a protected source. The product itself is bottled water. It has a clean, restrained flavor intended to work well with food. The estate traces the use of the spring back to the medieval period, and the modern brand built its identity around that long continuity. Begin with the place. It comes from springs beneath certified organic farmland at Lanlier in West Wales. Rainfall filters through the rural land and rock before collecting in the protected source. The packaging and market position finish the story. The dark label and premium glass bottle give Lanlier source a formal restaurant presentation. Along that route, the surrounding rock supplies the natural mineral composition. The still water is naturally balanced and bottled without carbonation. White rock. White rock is not trying to be complicated. It is a spring water from a very specific place. The source is the Shepley Spring area in the Pennine foothills of Yorkshire, England. That route shapes the final composition. The geology gives it a naturally occurring mineral profile, without the heaviness of a strongly mineralized water. The clear PET bottle shown uses a bold blue and white label. That makes the still product easy to identify. On the palate, it stays subtle. The still version is fresh, straightforward, and easy to drink. White Rock is a British spring water brand associated with a long-established family bottling business. The bottle comes last. The natural filtration happens first. Water travels through the local sandstone and underground layers before reaching the protected spring. Moving through rock and soil transfers the landscape's natural minerals into the water. Brecon Carrig. The bottle says Brecon Carrig, but the real subject here is the source behind this natural mineral water. The water is naturally filtered through the rocks of the national park landscape before it is bottled at source. The still version tastes fresh and balanced, rather than strongly mineral or salty. The source is tied to a clearly defined place. The water comes from a protected source in the Brecon Beacons National Park in Wales. Local geology establishes the water's natural mineral structure. It is sold as natural mineral water and is known for a clean profile with relatively low sodium. That source eventually became a recognizable brand. Brecon Carrig developed into one of the most recognizable Welsh bottled water brands. Its curved clear bottle and mountain-themed label make the Welsh origin central to the Wenty base. Packaging. Radnor Hills. You could introduce Radnor Hills through its history, its bottle, or its minerals. The source connects all three. It has a light, clean taste designed for everyday drinking. The history gives the brand another dimension. Radnor Hills began when founder William Watkins started bottling water from the family farm in 1990. Its source is Springs on Heartsease Farm in Radnorshire, mid-Wales. The company remains closely associated with rural Wales and produces water in several convenient bottle formats. By the time it reaches the plant, the landscape has already done most of the work. Rainfall moves through the surrounding hills and rock before reaching the farm's protected spring system. The surrounding rock determines the mineral balance found in the bottle. The water is bottled as spring water with its naturally occurring mineral content intact. Strathmore. This is Strathmore spring water. Rather than starting with the label, start with what happened underground. It comes from the Vale of Strathmore near Forfar, in Scotland. Water filters through the local aquifer and mineral-bearing rock before reaching the bottling source. That underground route gives the water its structure. The mineral balance develops naturally through contact with rock and soil. It is smooth and slightly fuller than very low mineral waters. A water business eventually formed around that location. Strathmore became a familiar Scottish hospitality water and was widely served in restaurants, hotels, and events. The blue label and Scottish landscape identity made the bottle immediately recognizable in the UK market. The still product carries a moderate natural mineral character without carbonation. Wenlock Spring. Wenlock Spring belongs to the spring water category. Although its texture tells the story better than the label does. It is clean and balanced with a gentle mineral finish. The place already tells you a lot about the water. It comes from the Wenlock Edge and Shropshire Hills area of England. Rainfall filters naturally through the limestone and rock formations of the Shropshire landscape before reaching the source. Its mineral character forms while the water remains against the surrounding rock. The source came first, and the brand grew from it afterward. Wenlock Spring grew as a family-run regional water business, serving homes, offices, and hospitality customers. The range is sold in practical PET and glass formats, and the image shows the verified non-carbonated version. The still water keeps the naturally occurring minerals of the spring. Sant'Aniol. A bottle of Sant'Aniol looks simple enough. The details become more interesting once you trace the water backward. The family-owned company was founded in 1993 around a source protected by a large exclusion zone. The source is Sant'Aniol de Finestres in the volcanic landscape of La Garrotxa, Catalonia. Most of the character is created before bottling begins. The water filters for more than 60 years through volcanic rock and is extracted from roughly 115 meters below ground. Minerals from the surrounding rock enter the water during the underground journey. The still water feels structured and slightly rounded, with more body than an ultralight water. Contact with the surrounding rock sets the mineral balance. That journey creates a medium mineral content, with notable calcium and bicarbonate. Sant'Aniol is positioned strongly in gastronomy and premium restaurant service. Mundaries. With Mundaries, the polished packaging is only the final stage. The product is a natural mineral water. It comes from the thermal spring town of Mundaries Balneario in Galicia, Spain. Commercial production developed later around the same water. The modern company dates to 1878, although the local springs had already been valued for much longer. The brand connects its bottle design and identity to the SBA history of Mundaries. Water rises from the Galician spring system after moving through the local underground geology. The mineral balance is formed during that contact with the geology. Its mineral profile is built by the surrounding rock. Mundaries is relatively low in total mineral content, with bicarbonate and sodium among the more noticeable components. The still version is light but not completely neutral, with a faint mineral signature. Pineo. Pineo shows how a natural mineral water can be defined by place even without any added flavor. Water comes from inside the mountain and rises naturally under artesian pressure, rather than being pulled from the ground by ordinary pumping. It starts with a place, the Spanish Pyrenees near Stamaiu in Catalonia. That time against the rock determines the final composition. It has low overall minerality, very little sodium, and a naturally alkaline orientation. Pineo was established in the 1990 seconds, around a remote artesian source in a protected mountain setting. You notice the effect more clearly when drinking it. The still water is clean, slightly soft, and gently rounded. Pineo presents itself as a terroir-driven mountain water for premium dining and specialty retail. 22. Artesian water. This is 22 artesian water, and the most useful way to understand it is through the source, not the marketing. What you're really getting is water from the Sierra de Cameros, in La Rioja, northern Spain. The mineral composition develops, while the water moves through local rock and soil. the water spends time underground before it is collected. It emerges from an artesian aquifer, more than 500 meters below the surface, after an absorption journey of roughly 150 years. The modern brand uses a tall premium bottle that highlights the number 22 and the source's heritage. The source was historically connected with local baths, and the water was formally declared mineral medicinal in 1861. The deep geological path gives the water a clear mineral identity and a stable source temperature. The still version has more body and structure than a very low mineral table water. Cabareroa. The history of Cabareroa begins around water already moving through the landscape. Today, it is sold as a natural mineral water. The water is naturally mineralized, and the still version is sold without added gas. It has a clean but noticeable mineral character, with a dry finish. The setting comes first. The source is the Cabareroa Spring in Verin, Galicia, Spain. Cabareroa has been bottled since the early 20th century, and became one of Galicia's classic mineral water names. Below ground, the process continues without much human involvement. Rainwater filters through the granite, rich landscape around Verin before reaching the underground source. The mineral balance develops during the water's time in the surrounding terrain. The mountain illustration and blue labeling connect the bottle directly to its Galician source. Bizoia. Bizoia is a reminder that natural mineral water does not always mean completely neutral. Bizoia became widely known in Spain for emphasizing very weak mineralization. The brand presentation is the final step. Bizoia is marketed as an easy everyday water, and the white and blue bottle design reinforces that clean, simple character. The source is the Sierra de Guadarrama area of Segovia, Spain. The main filtration takes place naturally underground. Water filters through the granite mountain environment before collecting in the protected source. The water is extremely light, soft, and nearly neutral. This is the part that creates the water's body. Its dissolved mineral content is unusually low, including very little sodium. Font Vella. So this is Font Vella natural mineral water. But the interesting part starts long before the bottle. Font Vella became one of Spain's most familiar still water brands during the growth of mass-market bottled water. It comes from mountain springs in Catalonia, especially the Sant Hilari Sacalm and Montseny areas. Most of the process happens below the surface. Rainfall moves through the forested mountain geology before reaching the protected springs. The tall, clear PET bottle and dark blue label are among the most recognizable water packages in Spain. The structure comes from that natural contact. The water takes on the mineral composition of the rock during its journey. The water has a light natural mineral composition and is bottled without carbonation. It is mild and straightforward, made for frequent everyday drinking. Longeron. Longeron is a natural mineral water, and the source gives it most of its personality. The source is the Sierra Nevada around the town of Longeron in Andalusia. Its composition is largely fixed before the water ever emerges. The still water carries a balanced natural mineral profile shaped by the mountain geology. The brand uses Sierra Nevada imagery and is widely distributed throughout Spain. The final character is subtle but recognizable. It is clean, moderately soft, and slightly rounded. Longeron's reputation is tied to the town's spa tradition, which developed strongly during the 19th century. The bottle is only the final step in the process. Snow and rain from the high mountains filter through layers of Sierra Nevada rock before reaching the springs. The minerals come from the rock and soil crossed on the way to the source. This bottle is very natural mineral water. It looks straightforward, though the water takes a much longer route to get here. Snowmelt and rainfall move through the Pyrenean rock before collecting underground. It is fresh, soft, and easy to drink with very little lingering flavor. Much of the final result makes sense once the origin is clear. The water comes from the high Spanish Pyrenees, near San Martin de Veri in Huesca. Its natural mineral structure comes from the geology around the source. The water is naturally low in sodium and has a light overall mineral presence. The sculpted bottle and pale mountain graphics emphasize purity and altitude. That natural source eventually became the foundation of the business. Veri built its identity around the altitude and protected mountain setting of its source. Insalis. Here we have Insalis natural mineral water, shaped more by geology than by anything added afterward. Its narrow blue label bottle presents it as a traditional regional mineral water. The result is restrained, though not anonymous. The still version has a fuller mouthfeel and a distinct mineral finish. Insulis has a history stretching back to the late 19th century and remains closely linked to its local source. The location matters more than it first appears. Its source is the spring area of Lizarza in the Basque Country of northern Spain. Water travels through the surrounding mountain geology before reaching the spring. The geology sets the mineral proportions naturally. Its final mineral balance reflects the rock around the source. Compared with ultra-light waters, Insulis has a more noticeable mineral composition, including calcium and bicarbonate. Fuente Liviana. Before talking about the flavor, this is Fuente Liviana natural mineral water. It comes from the Serrania de Cuenca Mountains in central Spain. Rain and snow filter slowly through the mountain terrain before entering the underground aquifer. The rock leaves a distinct mineral signature. Its mineral proportions come from the surrounding rock and soil. The brand is known for low sodium and a relatively light mineral balance. It is soft, clean, and neutral enough for everyday use. The commercial story developed from there. Fuente Liviana developed as a Spanish natural mineral water associated with a remote highland source. The bright yellow cap and mountain-themed label make the still product easy to recognize. Vitalis. Vitalis is sold as natural mineral water, but the category alone does not explain how it drinks. It is crisp and neutral, designed for frequent drinking. The geography is central to the brand. It comes from the Serra de São Mamede region of Portugal. The water has a light, naturally occurring mineral profile, and no added carbonation in the version shown. Reaching the source is a slow natural process. Rainfall moves through the mountain landscape and local rock before reaching the protected source. The water develops its mineral profile during this contact with local geology. Vitalis became a major Portuguese still water brand and a familiar product in retail, sport, and hospitality settings. The visual identity comes after the source story. The blue and red Vitalis label and practical pet bottle give it a strongly mainstream Portuguese identity. Gloria Patri. The name here is Gloria Patri. It is a spring water with a character tied closely to its origin. Gloria Patri was developed as a regional still water brand with a straightforward, everyday presentation. The source is a Portuguese spring, associated with the central mountain landscape. There is a long stage underground before bottling begins. Water filters underground through the local soil and rock before reaching the bottling source. The water collects naturally occurring minerals as it moves through the rock. The mineral content is naturally present and kept relatively gentle. The result is a clean, uncomplicated still water with a mild finish. The packaging is where the natural story becomes commercial. The bottle shown uses a simple blue and red label and is clearly marked as the non-carbonated product. Vimero. This one is Vimero natural mineral water, and it makes sense to begin with the way it feels in the mouth. Its tall glass bottle and restrained label connect the product to the older spa and hotel tradition of mineral water. Go back to the place it comes from. It comes from Vimero in the Torres Vedras area of western Portugal. The mineral springs of Vimero became commercially important around the turn of the 20th century. The water's own journey comes next. Water moves through the region's underground formations before rising at the source. The natural mineral pattern comes directly from the local geology. Vimero has a more distinctive mineral composition than many very light Portuguese waters. On the palate, it stays subtle. The still version has a structured, slightly savory mineral character while remaining refreshing. Luso. At the center of Luso is a protected source. The product itself is a natural mineral water. Rainfall filters through the forested mountain geology before reaching the São João source. It starts with a place, the Serra do Bucaco and the spa town of Luso in central Portugal. The underground journey determines the composition. The water has a light, balanced mineral composition and is bottled as a still natural mineral water. Luso's mineral water history is closely connected with the 19th century thermal resort that grew around the spring. On the palate, it stays subtle. It is soft, clean, and subtly rounded. The blue glass style bottle and red Luso name have made it one of Portugal's most recognizable premium waters. Monchique. Monchique is not trying to be complicated. It is a natural mineral water from a very specific place. What you're really getting is water from the Serra de Monchique, in Portugal's Algarve region. Agua Monchique is built around a mountain source, long associated with the spa town of Caldas de Monchique. Rock and soil along the route provide the minerals found in the water. The final result shows up in the mouthfeel. Despite the alkalinity, the still water is smooth and relatively gentle rather than sharply mineral. Water travels through the alkaline rock formations of the Monchique Mountains before reaching the aquifer. By emergence, the mineral chemistry has already formed. The brand is especially known for a naturally high pH and a distinctive mineral balance. The purple accented bottle makes the product stand out from the mostly blue visual language of bottled water. Caramulo. The bottle says caramulo, but the real subject here is the source behind this bottled water. The resulting still water has a light and naturally balanced mineral profile. It is soft and neutral with a clean finish. This is not a generic source. The location is very precise. The source is the Serra do Caramulo mountain region of central Portugal. Caramulo developed as a regional Portuguese water, associated with clean mountain air and a protected natural setting. The source is natural, so the key changes happen before bottling. Rainwater filters through the granite landscape before reaching the spring or aquifer used for bottling. Its final mineral proportions are formed through contact with the landscape. The elegant tapered bottle and restrained silver gray label give the product a premium, minimalist appearance. Caldas de Penacova. You could introduce Caldas de Penacova through its history, its bottle, or its minerals. The source connects all three. Caldas de Penacova grew from the region's long connection with springs and mineral water. Its presentation and place in the market add the final layer. The simple PET bottle and blue-red label are designed for everyday Portuguese retail. The source is the Penacova area near the Serra do Bucaco in central Portugal. Its character is formed underground, not manufactured during packaging. Water moves underground through the surrounding mountains and rock before being bottled near the source. It has a clean, easy drinking taste without a strong mineral aftertaste. It is generally presented as a light still water with modest mineralization. Serra da Estrela. This is Serra da Estrela water. Rather than starting with the label, start with what happened underground. It is crisp, soft, and refreshing with a short finish. It comes from the Serra da Estrela, Portugal's highest mountain range. The bottling stage is simple compared with the natural journey beforehand. Snow and rain pass through the granite highlands before feeding the underground water system. The brand uses the country's most famous mountain landscape as both its source identity and its central visual symbol. The geology creates a clear mineral imprint. Its mineral content comes from the rock encountered along the way. The still water has a light natural mineral composition, shaped by the mountain geology. The bottle graphics prominently feature the Serra da Estrela name and mountain imagery. Agua do Fastio. Agua do Fastio belongs to the spring water category, although its texture tells the story better than the label does. The source is the northern Portuguese highlands near the Geyser region. That route is what gives the water its physical character. The water is lightly mineralized and bottled without carbonation. The blue and green label gives the bottle a direct connection to water, landscape, and nature. When you drink it, the main difference is in the texture. It has a fresh, uncomplicated taste with little weight on the palate. Rainfall filters through the local granite and forested terrain before reaching the protected spring. Its path through the ground supplies the minerals found in the final water. Agua do Fastio is a long-running Portuguese spring water name associated with a rural mountain source. San Benedetto. A bottle of San Benedetto looks simple enough. The details become more interesting once you trace the water backward. Water filters through underground layers in the Venetian plain before reaching the protected source. It is smooth, neutral, and designed for everyday drinking. The place explains the character. The water comes from scours in the Veneto region of northeastern Italy. The mineral structure reflects the local rock formations. The natural version is lightly mineralized and contains no added carbonation. The commercial story developed from there. San Benedetto began bottling mineral water in the 1950 seconds, and later grew into a large international beverage company. The compact clear bottle with blue labeling is one of the brand's standard still water presentations. Santana. With Santana, the polished packaging is only the final stage. The product is a natural mineral water. The pale blue mountain label and lightweight PET bottle reinforce the brand's high-altitude identity. The distinction is easier to feel in the mouth than to describe as flavor. It has a very light, soft taste with almost no mineral aftertaste. Santana expanded rapidly from the 1,990 seconds and became one of Italy's leading bottled water brands. The source is the clearest place to begin. Its source is the Żywiec Spring near Veneto in the maritime Alps of Piedmont. Snow and rain from high-altitude filter through alpine rock before reaching the source. Its composition is formed during that journey. The mineral proportions are shaped by the surrounding geology. The water is famous for extremely low fixed residue and very little sodium. Livicima. Livicima shows how a natural mineral water can be defined by place even without any added flavor. It comes from the Valtellina Alps in northern Italy. Snowmelt and rainfall filter through alpine rock before reaching sources in the Valtellina area. Its mineral balance comes directly from that underground contact. The landscape establishes the mineral balance on its own. The natural mineral content is balanced and relatively light. The still water is crisp, clean, and slightly rounded. The brand came later. Livicima has been bottled for generations and became one of the country's best-known mountain water brands. The sculpted bottle and green mountain label are designed to communicate movement, altitude, and alpine origin. Roscetta. This is Roscetta natural mineral water, and the most useful way to understand it is through the source, not the marketing. It is smooth, delicate, and easy to drink with meals. Now look at the location. It comes from the Roscetta Spring near Gualdo Tadino in Umbria. The natural water is lightly mineralized and known for low sodium. From there, follow what happens underground. Rainwater passes through the Apennine geology before reaching the protected source. That time inside the local rock creates the mineral character. Roscetta became a nationally recognized Italian mineral water brand through decades of bottling and advertising. The commercial presentation completes the identity. The curving clear bottle and blue-green label give it a polished mainstream Italian look. FIJI. The history of FIJI begins around water already moving through the landscape. Today it is sold as bottled water. FIJI has one of Europe's oldest spa water reputations, with references to the water reaching back to the Middle Ages. The source is the springs of FIJI in the Lazio region of central Italy. Next, look at the natural path to the source. Water passes through the volcanic and sedimentary geology around the Ernisi Mountains before emerging at the springs. Its minerals come from the rock it encounters below the surface. The taste is soft, dry, and restrained rather than salty or heavy. Packaging turns the source story into a finished product. The green glass bottle and historic FIJI label preserve the product's traditional spa identity. It is a low-mineral still water with a distinctive natural composition. Plows. Plows is a reminder that natural mineral water does not always mean completely neutral. The tall glass bottle and blue mountain label are aimed strongly at restaurants and specialty retail. Start at the origin. It comes from Mount Plows above Brixen in South Tyrol, northern Italy. Plows built its reputation around a high-altitude alpine source and premium glass bottle presentation. Under the surface, geology handles the filtration. Snow and rain filter through mountain rock before reaching the source at high elevation. The rock around the source establishes the mineral profile. The water has very low mineralization, and particularly low sodium. Its character stays gentle while remaining distinct. It is extremely light, clean, and almost silky. Norda. So this is Norda natural mineral water. But the interesting part starts long before the bottle. Water from snow and rain moves through alpine and pre-alpine rock before reaching the individual springs. It starts with a place, multiple protected alpine sources in northern Italy. Norda began in Lombardy in the late 1960 seconds and expanded by bottling water from several mountain locations. The underground journey sets the chemistry before collection. The natural version keeps the mineral profile of its source without added carbonation. The label uses mountain imagery and blue tones to emphasize the northern Italian origin. It is fresh and balanced, with a moderate mineral finish. San Bernardo. San Bernardo is a natural mineral water, and the source gives it most of its personality. What you're really getting is water from the Maritime Alps, near Geyser in Piedmont. Its natural mineral makeup comes from the material it encounters underground. There is also a longer history behind the source. San Bernardo has been bottled since the early 20th century, and became known for its elegant Italian design. It is delicate, smooth, and well suited to food service. What matters most happens in the ground well before the bottle appears. Mountain precipitation filters through the alpine geology before reaching the protected spring. The water is lightly mineralized and naturally low in sodium. The bottle's colored neck pattern and clean typography are major parts of the brand's premium identity. Mangiatorella. This bottle is Mangiatorella natural mineral water. It looks straightforward, though the water takes a much longer route to get here. The natural version has a light, balanced mineral composition. It is fresh and soft, with a short, clean finish. The source gives useful context for everything that follows. The source is the wooded Serre Calabrese, near Stilo, in Calabria. Mangiatorella developed around a remote southern Italian mountain source and a long regional spring tradition. Its defining changes take place before it reaches the plant. Rain and snow filter through the granite, rich highlands before reaching the source in a forested environment. The surrounding terrain gradually creates the balance found at the source. The small clear bottle and green mountain label keep the visual focus on the Calabrian landscape. Santa Vittoria. Here we have Santa Vittoria, natural mineral water, shaped more by geology than by anything added afterward. The ornate green glass bottle and pink label give it a decorative, old-world restaurant appearance. Knowing the origin makes the rest of the profile easier to understand. The source is an Italian mineral spring marketed under the Santa Vittoria name. Water is naturally filtered underground through local rock before reaching the protected source. Most of its character shows up through texture, rather than a strong taste. It has a smooth, moderately mineral character that remains food-friendly. The still version preserves the source's natural mineral balance without carbonation. Santa Vittoria presents itself in the classic Italian tradition of bottled mineral water for dining and hospitality. Sol. Before talking about the flavor, this is Sol natural mineral water. It is clean and rounded, with enough mineral presence to feel structured but not heavy. Sol developed as a premium Italian water, with an emphasis on design and table service. Everything begins with the location. It comes from a protected spring in Tuscany, Italy. Water filters through the Tuscan underground geology before reaching the source. The way it is presented keeps the origin visible. The green glass bottle and sun emblem create a strong premium identity, with label colors distinguishing variants. The surrounding geology contributes the minerals found in the final water. The still product has a balanced mineral profile and is bottled without gas. San Graziano. San Graziano is sold as natural mineral water, but the category alone does not explain how it drinks. The source is a natural mineral source in northern Italy. The surrounding rock gives the water a recognizable mineral signature. The tall, clear glass bottle uses sparse silver graphics and a crest, giving it a minimalist luxury appearance. The profile is restrained, clean, and gently mineral. The final bottle comes after a much slower natural journey. Water travels underground through local rock before being bottled close to the source. Rock and soil along the route provide the naturally occurring minerals. San Graziano is presented as a boutique Italian mineral water, rather than a large mass-market brand. Its still version keeps the naturally occurring minerals and contains no added carbonation. Valverde. The name here is Valverde. It is a natural mineral water with a character tied closely to its origin. Water filters through alpine rock before reaching the protected spring. The still water is soft, balanced, and slightly rounded. To understand that, start at the spring. The water comes from the Piedmont Alps of northwestern Italy. The surrounding geology creates the water's natural structure. It is lightly mineralized, with a composition intended to remain subtle at the table. The brand came later. Valverde has built a premium reputation through restaurant distribution and distinctive bottle design. The frosted-looking bottle and small white label give Valverde one of the most minimalist presentations in the catalog. Fonte Essenziale. This one is Fonte Essenziale natural mineral water, and it makes sense to begin with the way it feels in the mouth. The distinctive curved bottle and green emblem separate it visually from standard, everyday waters. That becomes clearer once you taste it. The flavor is fuller and more mineral, with a dry finish. Its source is the thermal area of Borio in Lombardy's Val Camonica. The process becomes clearer when you trace the water. Water travels through the mountain geology before reaching the thermal source system. The rock formations establish the balance carried into the bottle. It has a more pronounced mineral composition than ultralight waters, including naturally occurring sulfate and magnesium. Fonte Essenziale belongs to the long Italian tradition of mineral waters, connected with spa towns. Aqua Eva. At the center of Aqua Eva is a protected source. The product itself is a natural mineral water. It comes from the slopes of Monte Viso in Piedmont, northwestern Italy. Snowmelt and rain filter through the mountain rock before reaching protected sources below Monte Viso. The route to the source creates the mineral profile. Natural contact with rock and soil shapes the composition. The natural water has low mineralization and low sodium. It is light, crisp, and easy to drink. The historical side of the brand matters too. Aqua Cru, a vague around the idea of high-altitude alpine water and broad everyday availability. The paired blue and red cap colors distinguish product formats, while the mountain logo keeps the source central. Hepar. Hepar is not trying to be complicated. It is a natural mineral water from a very specific place. It has a noticeably mineral, fuller taste rather than a neutral one. The geography is the first clue. It comes from the Vital water basin in the Vosges region of northeastern France. Hepar is unusually rich in magnesium and also contains substantial calcium and sulfate. The underground stage is essentially a natural one. Rainwater filters through layers of rock in the Vosges before reaching the underground source. The surrounding geology gradually shapes what ends up in the bottle. Hepar has been bottled since the 20th century and became especially known in France for its mineral composition. The final layer is how the brand shows all of this to customers. The blue label and bold Hepar name make the bottle easy to identify among French still waters. Mont Roucas. The bottle says Mont Roucas, but the real subject here is the source behind this natural mineral water. Mont Roucas developed as a French water known above all for exceptionally low mineralization. The source is the Monts de Lacan in the Tarn department of southern France. Nature does most of the processing below ground. Rainfall moves through the protected mountain landscape and underground rock before reaching the source. While underground, the water absorbs the mineral signature of the surrounding geology. The still water is extremely light and soft, with almost no lingering mineral flavor. The white and blue mountain label is commonly associated with gentle everyday water in family use. The water's body starts forming during this stage. Its total dissolved mineral content is very low, including little sodium. Thonin. You could introduce Thonin through its history, its bottle, or its minerals. The source connects all three. The Blue Mountain branding and large retail multipacks make Thonin a familiar regional French still water. The water is linked to one distinct geographic setting. It comes from the alpine town of Thonon, Les Bains beside Lake Geneva in Haute-Savoie. Thonon has a long connection with the spa and mineral water culture of the French Alps. Rain and snow from the surrounding mountains filter through the local geology before reaching the source. This natural path is what creates the final structure. Local geology creates the mineral composition found in the bottle. The water has a balanced mineral profile with moderate calcium and bicarbonate. It is fresh, smooth, and slightly rounded. Wattwiller. This is Wattwiller natural mineral water. Rather than starting with the label, start with what happened underground. Rainwater filters slowly through the protected mountain rock before reaching the source. It starts with a place. Wattwiller at the foot of the Vosges Mountains in Alsace. That underground route gives the water its structure. Wattwiller is known for low sodium and a stable natural mineral balance. It has a clean, soft taste with a mild mineral finish. The commercial identity follows the source. The village has been associated with mineral springs for centuries, while the modern brand presents the water nationally in France. The clear bottle and understated label keep the presentation practical and modern. Crémaillère. Crémaillère belongs to the natural mineral water category, although its texture tells the story better than the label does. The water gains its mineral profile through contact with local rock and soil. That source eventually became a recognizable brand. Kirkland became a widely distributed still water brand in the French market, using the famous Alpine resort name as its identity. It is crisp, moderately light, and slightly mineral. The water's identity is already formed before packaging. Snow and rainfall move through high mountain rock before reaching the underground source. The water is naturally mineralized and presented without carbonation. The way it is presented keeps the origin visible. The purple label and mountain image make the Alpine connection immediately visible on the bottle. What you're really getting is water from the Mont Blanc Alpine region associated with Kirkland. Crystalline. A bottle of crystalline looks simple enough. The details become more interesting once you trace the water backward. Each bottle is filled from a named regional source, so the exact mineral composition can vary by bottling location. Most versions are light, neutral, and designed for everyday drinking. The source area is the important detail. The source is a network of approved springs across France, rather than one single universal spring. Crystalline was launched in the early 1992s and grew into one of France's largest value-focused bottled water brands. Its route to the source takes far longer than the packaging stage. That interaction with the landscape shapes the composition eventually bottled. The simple clear bottle and red-blue crystalline label are instantly recognizable in French supermarkets. The common point is that it is sold as still spring or mineral water with no added carbonation. Les Abbatiles. With Les Abbatiles, the polished packaging is only the final stage. The product is a natural mineral water. The source was discovered during drilling in 1923, and bottled water production followed soon afterward. The geography gives the story its foundation. The source is the Sainte-Anne Spring beneath the Arcachon Bay area of southwestern France. The water rises from a deep aquifer hundreds of meters underground, after a long natural filtration path. That becomes clearer once you taste it. The still water is smooth, clean, and slightly silky. It has a balanced mineral composition and is naturally low in nitrate. Abbatiles uses pale blue branding and an elegant bottle to connect the product with Arcachon and coastal hospitality. Ogu. Ogu shows how a natural mineral water can be defined by place even without any added flavor. It is fresh, delicate, and easy to pair with food. Ogu is a long-established family water name from Bern, a region with a strong spring and spa tradition. The origin comes next. It comes from Augilles-Bains in the foothills of the French Pyrenees. Mountain rain and snow filter through the Pyrenean geology before reaching the protected source. The final element is the way the brand presents it. The blue and red Ogu packaging keeps the Pyrenean origin visible while remaining practical for everyday retail. As it moves, the water gains the natural mineral signature of the rock. The still version is lightly mineralized and naturally low in sodium. Saint-Amand. This is Saint-Amand natural mineral water, and the most useful way to understand it is through the source, not the marketing. The source is Saint-Amand-les-Eaux in northern France. This contact with the landscape fixes the mineral character. The town has been known for thermal and mineral springs for centuries, and the modern brand carries that geographic identity. The family-sized multi-pack and playful blue-red label make it a recognizable everyday French water. That difference is easiest to detect in the glass. The still version is clean with a mild mineral body and a dry finish. Water filters through underground layers before reaching the protected source in the Saint-Amand area. The water's mineral content reflects the material it passes through. It contains a noticeable but balanced amount of naturally occurring minerals. Gerolsteiner. The history of Gerolsteiner begins around water already moving through the landscape. Today, it is sold as a natural mineral water. Rainwater filters through volcanic rock and dolomite before collecting in deep underground reservoirs. The water has a clear mineral body and a slightly firm finish rather than a completely neutral taste. Look first at the source area. The water comes from the volcanic Eifel around Gerolstein in western Germany. The composition is a direct result of the local geology. That geology gives Gerolsteiner high levels of calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate, even in the natural still version. Its past adds context to the modern bottle. Gerolsteiner was founded in 1888 and became one of Germany's best-known mineral water producers. The tall glass bottle, blue star logo, and naturel Label preserve the brand's classic German mineral water identity.